I'm really excited to say that we have revamped our main cage, um, and I want to show it off. So, a few notes about cage design before I show you the specifics. It's on the floor because it's made of two secondhand critinations, and the critination cages, you can't have them connected like this and on the bases without accounting for a couple of bolts that hold some of the poles that reinforce it in place. So I'm going to see if some friends can help me out with a bit of spot welding so I can get it back up on a base again. But for now I'm really happy with where it is. I've designed it with my rats in mind, and trying to encourage natural behaviours as well as their own specific needs, and tried to cater for a range of ages from old rats to young, quite active ones. When I set up a cage, I don't like to have things that the rats are sitting on and potentially peeing on attached to the sides of the cage, because I find it promotes peeing and marking on the sides of the cages and makes a lot more mess. So you'll find a lot of my hides are grouped sort of towards the center with liminal spaces and food and things like that on the edges. And also having a huge cage layout like this is kind of limiting in what you can have in the center of the cage, so it takes a little bit of juggling to make good use of the vertical space, but I think we got around that. So I've set it up to start with the cage trays. They are core flute trays, which Chris and I actually used the trays from our existing ferret kingdoms. There we go. So core flute with aluminium, and then use this lovely floral tape to hold everything in place and to join the two trays together. So this is all one sturdy unit, and I've gone with hemp, mini hemp. I can't use shavings because I've got Pidge the patchwork, but I also found that when I was using my preferred substrate, which is paper cat litter, that they were just issuing the litter trays and going wherever. And so we're going to see how hemp goes. I'll see if I like it or not. I've got food on both the top and bottom levels, Vetafarm in a good sturdy thing, and I've got in here Petite Paws treats come with like tiny little cute jars of meal toppers, which is super cute. So I've stuck in litter trays on both corners, top and bottom. Because all rats have their preferences, mine typically tend to go in the back right hand corner. The floor I've left a lot more bare than in my other cage, because when I had a single ferret kingdom, by the time you put in hides, litter trays and everything else, I find that they didn't have room to run around on the floor, which is such a natural behaviour for a Rattus norvegicus. So I wanted to promote that a little more. I've made a nice sturdy heavy ladder on some chains, and this is actually made of secondhand toys that were destroyed at the rescue and chewed to pieces, and I salvaged what I could and used them in new and interesting ways. For example, these round bits sort of work to make it a bit of an obstacle course for the rats to navigate around as they climb up. So I've gone totally overboard with all the enrichment toys. This is absolutely the best this is ever going to look. I'll rotate around what's in here. I'm just excited to see them all engage with everything. So there's a treat ball here, and a nice, easy to access, easy to manipulate one with some Petite Paws treats and peanuts and a bit of black rice. We've got two ground floor hides. The green one is Pidge's. Pidge loves that. Has chewed around back entrance, always has to have it, full of paper. And we'll see if there's competition for ground floor hides. I can put some more in quite easily. When you're designing a cage, you also want to think about the motivation to use objects in the cage. So this, for example, it's sturdy enough, but it's still a little bit tricky to walk on. So to encourage them to use that and to practice their balancing skills, I've got another enrichment treat here, which is a little bit more difficult. So a range of things for a range of rats. And then this is like a two-story like a file holder, but we'll get to that on the top row. The wheels, there's 2 wheels. Rodent wheels is the biggest we can get in Australia at the moment. I'm looking into getting something bigger from overseas, but that's very, very expensive. So rodent wheel, zip tied very, very sturdily into the sides of the cage. I've positioned the wheels on both sides over a litter tray because one of the rats who loves the wheel the most is my girl Froggy, and being a Manx, unfortunately, she is missing part of her spine and part of the nerves that go to certain areas, so she has trouble with her bowels. So she often rushes from the wheel to the litter tray, and I think it'll make it a lot easier for her being positioned directly over the top of it. And then water bottles. I always like to have more than one water bottle in a place. Not only so that if one stops working, but because I use these springy water bottle holders, and if you have 2, they can't really move around and fall over. They sort of lock each other in place. So that's the bottom floor. So let's take a look at the middle floor. So if we go to the middle section, a lot of the concepts are the same. One thing I didn't mention is that I've added some ledges, which make a set of stairs when the cage is closed, just to help rats that might have a hard time climbing up the bars to access the middle level a little easier. So we've got food again, and a nice fun enrichment toy, and again litter trays. So I'm not a fan of plastic trays as a rule. We'll see how my rats go with them, especially with the litter trays there, but I find that rats are tempted to pee. If they do pee here, but they still seem to really like having this space, I'll probably put newspaper down so that pee doesn't leach under the litter tray and just get caught and make a mess, and that way that'll help capture and absorb it and dry it out, and I can move it around. I've added ledges, larger ledges, just here, and the same on the other side, because my rats like to come and beg for my attention in the corners. They're just a bit like that. Sputniks, when I put in Sputniks, I like to zip tie them in, because I find as soon as a Sputnik falls down it gets chewed, and they're too nice to get chewed. Although we are definitely getting into the top. Whereas, so down here, because this is a space where 2 hammocks interact with each other and they can reach one hammock from the other hammock, I've made sure to give them plenty of nesting material to try and avoid the temptation to chew one hammock while sitting in the other. I liked this one for something sort of light and summery, so I'll see how they go. I navigated the issue of not being able to hang things in the middle and the issue of not wanting a fall risk all the way from top to bottom by using some secondhand tie hangers from IKEA. And on that, it's quite easy to hang whatever you like. So this one's holding a hammock and also a Sputnik, which is just nice and sturdy, and the rats can access it from the top quite easily. Underneath this one, we have these 2 racks. One I've loaded up with nesting material because that's what we used to do in their old cage. And hanging out behind that is a nice private hammock that has just a little bit more privacy and personal space for rats that might like that. I like these because the rats can sort of navigate them however they like and sort of make their way through. Okay, and then over on this side, water bottles again, litter tray, a wheel. Oh, this is adorable. My friend Amy from Creative Critico, she bought me this for Christmas. She's got 2 actually. One says Radis Rachie, which is the name I go by on Etsy and everything else. They're foraging toys. They were made by Petite Paws Natural Treats. It's just adorable. This one I'm gonna steal and pop in my show cage when I pop off to rat shows and say hello to everyone. And then this other one here, it says Chris and Rachie's Rats, and it's just beautiful. Even when the rats chew it to pieces, I'm definitely gonna replace all the little wooden bits and make it a permanent fixture. So there's a few interesting things here. One, a bowl of water. It's something that I've wanted to do in my current cage for a long time, but it's really hard to get it sturdy. By using one of these side-fitting water bowls, and also having it sit about flush with the floor, like it's really sturdy, so they won't be able to make a big mess. And that's good because they'll be able to wash their faces and keep clean and do things the way they want. And the the obvious weird thing hanging here. So this is a whole dried sardine, and what it's attached to is actually something I made myself because I couldn't find something that was like what I wanted. So this is 2 bits of sturdy wire, and these are glass beads, you know, thinking of what Jonjon Rat of Forbidden Mouse Palace says, rats appreciate beauty. Mice in his case, but I thought it might be nice to test out. So I put a hook on it so I could attach it to things. In the other versions I've made for myself, I've actually put a clippy, a stainless steel clip like this on the top of it, so that I can attach it to anything, hang it off the bottom of hammocks or wherever, and really sort of mix up where I put their foraging and enrichment toys. And then for most of mine I actually just made one sort of run and did it in some heavier beads, just to give it a nice little bit of weight. I've got another one here. So here's another one I made for our cage. Just nice weighted glass beads that I had lying around, just to attach enrichment toys to it absolutely wherever you want in the cage. So the beads give it a nice little bit of weight so that when they're, you know, holding it, it's not just flopping it around even if you put something very light on there. And these are quite sturdy, especially if you give the clips a little bit of a pinch. And when I attach it, rather than attaching it on a crossbeam like this, I'm actually attaching it to like this so it slides around, just to make it a tiny bit more challenging. And then the roof. So more Sputniks, a nice long tunnel, which are just so easy to hang with the clips. The clips just do everything. I've added this piece of wooden one here, so this is a little bit precarious, and I've added this alongside this nice, not super difficult, but very rewarding foraging toy, and I've put some high value treats in there, things like the Nibbler mix from Petite Paws, which has some quite high value things like sunflower seeds and pepitas, and also the last of our little Christmas gingerbread men, which is very nice and smelly and might entice a few rats to come and try and give it a go. High reward for a high risk endeavour, and by risk I don't mean physical danger risk, I mean it's a unsteady thing that's difficult to get to, so you know, motivation to engage with things. More Sputniks, I usually drill holes in the bottom of my Sputniks because Hereford and some of the other lazy slobs like to pee in it, making sure there's good nesting material available. They'll move that around and manipulate it as they want, and more hammocks. And then on the top of the cage, where my storage is, there's my carrier, which I keep topped up with paper cat litter, so that if there's ever an emergency I can just grab and go. My rat treats and a few little bits and bobs. Some really, really simple and effective things in here, like I've got all the Petite Paws stuff. There's a snuffle mat, some applewood sticks. This is just a herb jar shaker full of black rice, which you can just shake into the cage for immediate foraging enrichment. Very, very easy to do. My show tubs, if I ever want to go off to rat shows. And then so we've got our food, Better Farm. This is some tofu cat litter that I'm giving a try. The main worry there is whether the rats ingest it or not, so I've been trying it in covered litter trays, and I'll keep testing on that and see, because it's quite effective. I've just got to find a good way to use it. And I keep a bit of litter up here as well, because litter trays are the thing that need changing most often, and I can't always get up and down the stairs all the time, depending on how my body's doing on a certain day. So having something there that makes it accessible for me to clean up is really handy. So I'm absolutely over the moon excited. Chris and I stayed up late last night making that tray and putting a heap of time into assembling the cage, and then I've spent all morning putting all the stuff in. I'm really, really excited to see how our rats go in it. But that's something for me and Chris to enjoy together, so I'll take a separate video of that when we do it. If anyone has any sort of comments, questions, ideas, anything, I would love to hear them. I love discussing this kind of stuff. Alright, catch you around.